Yes, that's a knife. Hey guys, retired Lieutenant Todd Heaton here with Humilitas First. This robbery was easily avoidable. Now let me show you how. First of all, where are we? This is Houston, Texas. Are we in a high crime dangerous area or are we in a relatively safe area? Let's take a look. There are a lot of tools out there, but according to crimegrade.org, yes, this is a high crime dangerous area, which means the probability of you being robbed is going to increase in a high crime dangerous area. I did a YouTube search for Houston, Texas, most dangerous areas at night, and this is what I found. Surely someone will lament, but I live in this area, or I know someone who lives in an area just like this. Okay, so what? You don't have to spend your time hanging out where you live if that place is a high crime dangerous area. You don't have to shop where you live. You don't have to spend your money on entertainment or groceries or gasoline, fast food, or anything else in the same area where you live. All it's going to cost you is a little bit more time and a little bit more money to get out to one of these green areas, one of those areas that is currently identified as not being as dangerous. A little more travel time and a little more money for gasoline, for Uber, or for public transportation, however it is you're getting to where you're going. Ultimately, moving is the answer. The question for most people comes down to, how long am I willing to endure this lawlessness before I've had enough and I actually move? Number two, avoiding dangerous men. What is it specifically that moves me to look at this guy as a potentially dangerous man? This crime happened March 30th, 2023. So what was the temperatures like in Houston, Texas on that date? Well, it looks like they ranged from 72 to 64 at night. So why is this guy wearing these long sleeve coveralls, a black hoodie that's up, and a mask? Don't you think that's kind of weird? So if I put my coveralls on, I could real quick shed these coveralls if I had to, run from the police. If I were a betting man, I would be willing to wager he's got a whole nother set of clothes on underneath these coveralls. The hoodie and the mask serve to conceal his identity. It makes it harder for a victim to identify him after a crime. The next reason is, how come this right arm is free swinging and this left hand is buried deep in his coveralls pocket? It's almost like he has a weapon in the pocket. Whoa, that's weird. He was holding on to a knife. A constant is that things tend to get more dangerous when the sun goes down, but depending upon the area, it's not a guarantee. Some areas may be just about as dangerous during the daylight. It's going to depend upon the area and current crime trends. In Houston, Texas, on March 30th, 2023, the sun set at 7:39. So when did this crime occur? 8:50 p.m. is when it happened. So don't go to high crime dangerous areas around dangerous men after dark. Number four, don't loiter in areas of vulnerability. In other words, if you have to go to or stop at a business in a high crime dangerous area, learn to be efficient as it relates to your arrival and departure. Don't stand around talking. All right, let's take a look at this first victim's body language. People don't generally walk to and from their car with their arms crossed. That tends to happen when folks are stopped or seated. Look at his stance. So it's my opinion that he's been standing here for a minute talking to this other guy, loitering in this area of high vulnerability. How much of a difference would a better position have made in this particular incident? Say these two gentlemen had the knowledge that it's better to offset 10 to 15 yards from this main walkway. Would that be better? Well, yes, but then you have to ask the question, better for what? Yes, it's going to be better if you have good situational awareness and either some common sense or some tactical knowledge of what to do next as it relates to potential outcomes. But it's not going to stop this bad guy from spinning this thing up into a deadly confrontation because he really wants their wallets and their phones, which is exactly what he ended up taking. Offsetting is better than this position, but it pales into utter insignificance when compared to efficiently getting into the store or getting into your car and leaving. By far, that helps you to avoid the wolf. Not being there when the wolf comes, that's the best thing. The only way to get better is an honest or a humble assessment of the facts. That is going to include critiquing mistakes that victims are making in these deadly force confrontations. So what about these two guys? Are they situationally aware? I don't think so. As our bad guy rounds this blind corner, stepping onto the scene, it's notable he's a complete stranger to these two. If either one of our victims took a good discerning look at how this guy chose to dress himself and took note of his left hand buried in his coveralls pocket, I doubt that victim number one would have continued to provide this unjust criminal aggressor with his back. I think one of the two would have kind of moved the other to back up a little bit, give this guy a little more room, repositioning to face the threat. Victim number two was in a position the whole time to observe, if nothing else through his periphery vision, and see the bad guy angling towards his friend and ultimately reaching out. This bad guy seemed to catch both of these guys completely unawares. Look, you have to observe, but you also have to understand what you're observing. You have to know what's not normal, as well as pre-threat indicators, like hands buried in the pockets. Then you gotta have a sound plan regarding what to do about it. Even if these two gentlemen had offset 10 to 15 yards, I don't think it would have changed anything regarding this robbery. And I'll tell you why. There's an old pithy saying in tactical circles: the bad guy always gets a vote. The word vote having to do with the human being's will. In other words, the bad guy decides whether to initiate and to maintain a deadly threat to get what he wants. Bad guys are good at testing and reading victims to see if they're paying attention, to see if they're going to reposition. Here's how the bad guy is going to close the gap to deal with this offset. He's going to pick a line with the near pass. That near pass is going to bring him to an apex point. That apex point is an opportunity for him to pivot 90 degrees and simultaneously draw. That's going to take about a quarter of a second. He's going to reach out. He's going to grab his victim. He's going to do the same thing. The outcome is going to be the exact same as it was up close to the door with these two particular victims. Even if you have good situational awareness and you understand what to look for and you have a good sound plan of what to do, this is still a terrible situation. Why? If you live in a big city in the United States, or you have to frequent a big city, there is an increasing probability that you may have a problem with an unjust activist prosecutor. There's not just one battlefield, there's multiple battlefields. The legal battlefield is a massive battlefield, and most people are woefully unprepared for the legal battlefield. In my courses, I often recommend to people to buy the book by defense attorney Andrew Branca, The Law of Self-Defense. That's a good start. You don't want to begin learning about that battlefield when you're on it.